Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and today we are talking about the Miami Hurricanes 2021 team preview with a person who knows more about football than, I was going to say than Vincent Turner himself, but oh, I will say this. You are coming up to a level of recognition in the sports industry. Mr. Logan Landers as one of our best correspondents in the entire sports world. We are incredibly grateful to have you. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, Jeremiah. And just that little tidbit about our guy, Vincent Turner. I'm not anywhere near his level of football knowledge, but I'm gladly will say I am a protege under his wing, learning about the game of football, the history of football, and all that he has to offer. So I'm honored by that. And I'm ready to talk about the Miami this morning, baby. It's gonna be a good show.
Absolutely. Well, if everybody's watching today, then thank you so much. Please continue to share everything, especially sharing into Facebook groups, sharing with your friends, and just telling people about 100 Yards of Football. And if you're not listening to us on our podcast yet, make sure you jump over and listen to our podcast. So, Logan, I'm just going to take it from here. Like, Miami Hurricanes, where's the top? What is it that they need to do? And just tell us about the Miami Hurricanes for 2021.
Yeah, so for me, the real question is, where is D'Eriq King going to be at? Because he, obviously has that big injury that he's coming off of. Will he be healthy? Or, is he gonna be hampered a little bit throughout the rest of his college career at Miami? Because, man, whenever he was on the field, he was absolutely electric. I mean, he threw for over 2,600 yards, had about 23 touchdowns. So this guy is obviously a very good quarterback for the ACC and just for college football in general. So to have him go down to such a rough injury, you hate to see it. You really do. And with everything that went wrong last year with college football, with the shortened season, and now with guys getting hurt, guys weren't playing, you just hate to see it. So for me, Miami is going to have to figure out who's going to be their starting quarterback. It's looking like it's going to be put on the young freshman, Tyler Van Dyke, which he's not bad, though. He's 6'4", 224, and I think that he's going to be a solid replacement until D'Eriq King comes back. So we'll have to see how the young man will do. But if King comes back, and I'm sure he will early on in the season, I think the Miami Hurricanes have a good fighting chance to have a very good record this year. But it's going to be tough, though, Jeremiah, because their first game of the year is against the defending national champions, a team we talked about a good bit on this program, the Alabama Crimson Tide. So you're starting off week one. You're not getting any easy teams. You're getting right in the thick of it against, one of the best teams in college football, against one of the best coaches in college football history. So that's going to be, first off, a fun game to watch because you got Alabama, who's got, some of the best recruits in the nation. And then you got Miami, who's a scrappy young team trying to get their way into that college football playoff. So that's going to be a great game, I feel, to kick off week one of the college football season in 2021 between these guys. They play on September 4th, so just a little bit away. And I think that's going to be an absolutely outstanding game between these two teams. But Miami, they've got a few pieces who have left. They got some guys who are coming in. Yep. And, man, I don't know what they put in the water down there in Tuscaloosa in Alabama, but it don't matter if they got 20 guys who leave the program. They're going to have 20 more come in and be already starters for that team. It's absolutely amazing what they do down there. But back to the Hurricanes, though. So, like I said, if Tyler Van Dyke's going to be the guy going up against Alabama, man, I'd get some good sleep the night before because it's going to be a long day probably. But, the thing is, just stay confident against this team. I know, look, he's a young freshman. He's going up against the powerhouse of college football. But we've seen crazy things happen, though. So just keep that confidence, and Miami could have a strong game against them. Now, one of their best receivers, who was Brevin Jordan, the tight end, is no longer with them. He went on to play. He's going on with the Houston Texans right now. So they've got to get a better threat on their receiving core, whether it be a tight end or the wide receiving route. And they got a few good guys. They got some guys who have been on the team for a while. They've got some other good players. They got Mike Harley, Mark Pope, and also D. Wiggins, who are going to have, I think, pretty solid years with D'Eriq King or with Van Dyke at the QB at the beginning part of the season. So I think those guys are going to have a really strong season. if they want to get Miami up, just keep on moving up into the top 10 potentially. We'll have to see how they do. But I think that they have a very strong offense, though. And the thing with me is, how is their offensive line going to do? Because some parts, they look pretty solid, and then sometimes they look pretty shaky. So, usually for the training camps and all the mini camps you're going to be doing right now, the spring practices, that's really a telltale sign of how they're going to have to work that offensive line, how they're going to get that shaped up, and how they're going to get it ready for the 2021 season. They got some guys coming back, and then they've got some new ones coming in, but I feel like once they get that good mesh of veterans and then young guys who are looking to prove their worth, I think the offensive line could greatly improve this year. They just need to play more confidently. They need to do it more consistently. But they have a solid offensive line, though. But for me, it's going to be interesting to see how the running backs do this year. Because they had, like I said, it's kind of like the offensive line. They had a pretty good run. In some games, they were kind of quiet. They got 3 guys who are going to be solid in that rotation. Of course, whenever D'Eriq King comes back, he is a great rusher. He runs for a lot of yards. So I think that once he comes back, man, he's going to help out that running game a lot and really just add another level of versatility to that Miami offense. Of course, you also have Cameron Harris coming off a great season, run for over 600 yards, and he also had around 10 touchdowns. So he is a solid option at your running back position, then his backup being Donald Chaney, who's a second-year freshman. So he's looking good as well. So I think they have a decent wide receiving core, a pretty good offensive line, and I think a really solid running back core. So all in all, I think their offense is very solid. They have a really good team on the offensive side of the ball. But as we know, Jeremiah, that's only half the battle. You can't just have a good offense. You got to have a pretty good defense, especially in the ACC where they're playing. They have a lot of good teams. And going up against week 1 against Alabama, that's going to be a great test to see how that defense is going to, come play this year. So they lost some guys. Of course, we all know they lost Gregory Rousseau. He went on to get drafted in the NFL last year, so they're losing a good bit of their talent. So, also with Jalen Phillips as well. So there's 2 guys who were just on your D-line who were out, and then they've got a lot of guys they need to have step up this year to replace the talent that those guys had, also with Quincy Roach. So it's going to be interesting to see because you lost a lot of good production on your defensive line, whether it be with sacks, whether it be with tackles for losses. That's a lot of production that Miami's D-line got hit with in the NFL draft. So, I mean, those are all 3 really good players. That's why they got drafted. But, man, it really hurt this team when it comes to how they're going to be able to get to the quarterback this year, I think. Because it's not just one guy. It's not 2. But you lost 3 of your anchors on your team. And we'll see how they can do. So they do have a senior. They have Zach McLeod coming back. They got Jafari Harvey coming in as a freshman. And also they have a guy from your neck of the woods, my friend, from Tennessee, who got transferred in with DeAndre Johnson, Yeah. So we'll see how they can do. We'll see if they can come in, if they can get, a good majority of that production from those 3 guys, how they're going to be able to do. So we're going to see how they can perform. They also have Jonathan Ford and Nesta Silvara coming in. So that's not horrible by any means necessary, man, but it's going to be a challenge for that D-line this year, I think. We'll see. I think the production's going to drop a little bit, so we're going to have to see how they can do. So I think their secondary, when they're healthy, man, they're ready to rock. They're going to be a great secondary at the cornerback, at the safety position. They're going to be fine, man. They got Bubba Bolden coming back. Great name, first off, but he was also, one of the best tacklers at the safety positions as well. He had 74 tackles this past season. So he's obviously a guy who's really going to help you out and who's really going to have a good tackling safety in mind, which is always key because if someone gets deep, if they do catch a ball pretty deep, he's going to be able to track them down and not get a touchdown. So that's always great. And then Amari Carter is going to be happening somewhere. He's going to be doing a great job. So we're going to see how he's going to do as well. He had 53 tackles last year. So I think their secondary, they're pretty solid. DJ Ivy's a good guy who's had a really good career. So I think that they have some guys who are solid on that secondary. And I think that if they can really just get, see what they're going to do with that defensive line this year and how that offense is going to perform with your quarterback coming back from an injury. You have, the young freshman who's going to be starting things off. You have a kind of a good mesh of your offensive line of rookies and veterans coming back. So we'll see how those guys can do. And I think just a really good, whether it be, you have a good tight end now. Like I said, you lost You're starting tight end, but you get Will Mallory back, so he's going to be, having to step up and get that production up. But I think that overall, this Miami team is solid. They're getting Charles Rambo coming in from Oklahoma, so that's a really good key piece, I think, about that offense as well. So to me, it looks like they're going to go offensive heavy, and they're going to try and just punch teams in the mouth and get a lot of points on the board, which isn't a bad option. But as long as you have a solid defense, which Miami I think will have a pretty good defense, I'm not expecting them to be a top defense in the league or anything like that. But I think they'll be solid. They'll hold their own weight. And I think that also if you can have some guys on the D-line who can step up for production of those three guys I mentioned earlier who left for the NFL, that's really going to help out. So all in all, I think Miami is going to have a pretty good season. They have a few tough tests in their lineup. Of course, like I said, they face Alabama in week 1. That's always going to be a tough one. They face some other notable names. I see Michigan State, North Carolina, and North Carolina State as well. Georgia Tech also, and then our guy Bobby Butler's team with Florida State. So, I mean, they're going through the ringer of, all the ACC teams. And I think that overall Miami is going to have a solid year, and we'll see how far they can move up in the rankings.
Yeah, I think that we can definitely see that first test right out the gate is, of course, the biggest test probably that they're going to face for most of the season. Mm-hmm. I would love to see them, put in work, at least make some big plays, make some type of noise coming in. And of course, the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to in the entire football season is getting back to seeing games in person. So going and seeing the Miami Hurricanes play in person at their stadium, that's going to be huge. It's been over a year for most people. So can you imagine sitting in the stadium and sitting there with all the fans of the Hurricanes and Alabama? That's going to be life-changing. It may be something historic, and I would love to be there to see that. So everybody else who's watching, make sure you tell us, are you going to go and see Miami Hurricanes play in person? Are you looking forward to seeing them play Alabama in the first game? What do you think are the keys for the game? Put in the comments if you agree with Mr. Logan Landers' assessment, if you have any other comments, or if there's anything else that you want to tell us about it. Well, Mr. Landers, do you have any final thoughts on the Miami Hurricanes?
Yeah, man, I think this is going to be a very solid Miami program. I think that, week 1 is going to be a great testing point against Alabama, see how they're going to perform this year. But other than that, I'm expecting them to keep a good ranking. They're in the top 25. They're ranked at 22 at the moment. It wouldn't surprise me at all, Jeremiah, if they sneak up into that top 10. I don't see them getting to the college football playoff quite yet. They need a few more pieces, but it would not surprise me one bit at all if the U are in the top 10 this year.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're only watching us, you're not on our podcast yet, please jump over and listen to our podcast. Just look up 100 Yards of Football wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Google Playlists, Google Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And we super appreciate it because we've had amazing traction and an amazing reaction from our audience for our podcast. And Mr. Landers, thank you so much for the work you do to get our podcast up every day, because these podcasts have been growing and helping us. And so thank you very much. And thank you to our entire team for all the really hard work they put in every week to make sure that you have all of this amazing content. Well, for the entire team here at 100 Yards of Football, I am Jeremiah Long, the producer, and you've been listening to our dude Logan Landers give us an assessment of the University of Miami college football team for 2021. We'll be right back with another